June 3rd, 2025 is going to be an important day for the town of North Attleboro, Massachusetts. A life-changing vote will happen to either approve or disapprove the construction of a brand new high school for the town. A yes vote would approve the beginning of a $287.8 million construction project that would be partially funded via a $107 million grant from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, while the rest will be funded through North Attleboro residents with an increase in taxes of about $970 per year for the next 30 years. Approval of these costs would include construction of the new building, making a new entrance road designed specifically for the high school, upgrades to the current fields, updating parking, and demolishing the building that students and staff have called home since 1974. On the other hand, a no vote would delay or cancel the project entirely, and residents could benefit from not seeing an increase in the amount they would need to pay in taxes, while students and staff would continue to use the current facilities. Whether a person is voting yes or no, this is an issue that will impact every resident of North Attleboro, no matter the outcome, and both sides come to the table with valid points. Today, I will be going around the current North Attleboro High School, speaking to students, staff, and administration, and discussing the school community's feelings on the vote, while also looking at some of the arguments from residents who disagree with building a new high school. I'm Emilee Davis, a student journalist here at North Attleboro High School, here to share what's going down with the new high school project as we approach the June 3rd election. So my first question for you guys is, what did the initial conception of this idea, how did that come about?
Well, actually, we talk about it at length. It's actually been an eight-year conversation. The district submitted to the Mass School Board Authority an application for a new high school back in the 2017. I even remember being in this building when a committee from the MSB came out to look at the school and assess what our needs were. So we submitted multiple applications since 2017 because we wanted to find a better way to provide a school building for students in North Attleboro, to provide a better education. So I think it started back then, and we just got accepted into the MSBA application process. We were accepted in March of 22, and then since then we've been working on designing and planning and creating an educational vision, creating a design for what the building would look like, looking at all different options in terms of repair, renovation, addition, or a brand new school building. But that's really accelerated in the work in the last couple of years, and kind of just taking it from there.
I would just add the reason we started this conversation is because the community, and that includes like school administration, but also the broader community, looked at this building and two things. One, it determined that it really had exceeded its useful life. You know, there was major deficiencies, whether it was the heating and ventilation system or the electrical system, but also just the classroom space, just had major deficiencies. And more importantly, it just had stopped meeting the needs of a 21st century student. You know, whether it was having interior classrooms with no windows or just not having space to kind of display your learning, we know we needed to do something different. So it was really that twofold decision that led to that process that Mr. Haviland was talking about.
And when did it become clear to you that like renovation wasn't an option and that you needed to look into creating a new building?
That process concluded last summer, so the summer of 2024. But as part of the process, we had to look at alternatives, right? We had to look at a repair-only option. What would it take just to repair this building? Make it handicap accessible, make sure that the systems were, operable and sustainable. So we looked at repair only. We then looked at addition and renovations. Could we renovate it like a real renovation, a significant renovation? It would look different, feel different, and feel new at the end. So renovate and add. So we kind of went through this real long evaluation process, and a lot of it comes down to money. Right, and our ability to deliver our educational plan that Mr. Haviland spoke about. And the addition renovation options were actually more expensive than building a new building. And that happens for a lot of reasons. One is that this building really is kind of a poor design and construction to begin with. I mean, it's over 50 years old. And what it would take to renovate this just takes a lot. But it would also take somewhere between 5 and 6 years. So that adds not only to the students' experience, but it also adds to the cost, right? So we sort of ruled it out based on that. And then the repair-only option we ruled out simply because just to repair this building, it would cost well in excess of $100 million. And at the end, you'd still have the same old building with a couple of improvements. It would be handicap accessible. You'd have a new system, but you'd still have undersized classrooms. You'd still have interior classrooms with no windows. And you'd have a building that doesn't allow us to do some of the things that Ms. Tavlon talked about, which is apply your learning in a very kind of public and open way. So that process happened at the end of last summer. At the end of the day, it just made sense both financially and educationally to build a new building.
While there are many within the school community who approve of building a new high school, there are also residents in the overall community who disagree, and it's important to hear their opinions as well. From open conversations on public social media forums, here are some reasons why residents are voting no for the new school project. One person says, "This goes up every year and does not include the Tri-County assessment nor the Prop 2.5% override. Vote no." Talking about taxes there. And what do you see as the impact of this project on both our NAHS community and the larger North Attleboro community?
On the NHS community, I think it's great. I think a lot of students are going to like it. But I do think because we are increasing taxes, it is a little bit of an added stress on a lot of the community members. And I hope that we do get the new school, but I do also worry for the people in our community because it is a big undertaking especially for people that can't pay for the increase in taxes.
For the NAHS community, I think it would be really beneficial for students. Personally, I find a lot of struggle learning here sometimes because it just, like with all the fluorescent lighting and the lack of windows, it gets really straining sometimes, and it just feels kind of like a prison. I'm not gonna lie, it's very all the concrete walls and it's just very all cramped together. So I think building a new school would definitely help the students to feel more like they want to come to school instead of it like it's an obligation. And then as for the larger community, our auditorium is going to be 2.5 times bigger, I believe, so we could definitely use it for town meetings and things like that because we don't actually have an auditorium in the town, so that would be really beneficial for everyone in the community for that stuff.
I'm here with Mr. Ferguson, who's a history teacher here at North Attleboro High School, so I'm just going to ask you a couple questions today about the new school project. So my first question is, how do you feel about the idea of getting a new high school?
I'm very excited. I hope the town comes through and votes for it. I look around, the area, the Hockomock League. You look at places like Attleboro, places like Franklin, places like Sharon. I think our kids deserve that kind of same opportunity.
And what do you see as the impact of this project on our community at NAHS?
Hopefully it brings more people together. It hopefully will prevent some people from leaving North and going to private school or going to trade schools. So it's a great project for the whole community because they're going to get to be able to experience it, whether through their children or through the community events that'll be planned here.
And then what makes this project important as a staff member here at NAHS?
The building we're currently in is falling apart. I mean, it's that simple. It's a difficult building to deal with in bad weather, whether our heat's going to work, whether, our hornets are going to come in through the window. So it's just that to get on the level with everybody else, right? We've done a lot with this building, and I'm excited to see what we could do with more technology and a newer building.
And then what makes this project important specifically as a staff member here at NAHS?
So as you might be able to see on this video, I teach in a classroom and have taught in a classroom for 17 years now that has no windows and that has an iffy air system. And Emily, as a student of this classroom, that sometimes it's very warm and sometimes it's very cold and you never know quite what you're going to get. So in terms of just feeling good and well-being, that's one of the things that I think makes this project so important for me as a staff member because I will be here hopefully for many, many years, and it would be nice to feel comfortable and happy and healthy in the building that I'm teaching in.
I didn't teach in a room without windows quite as long as Mrs. Anderson, but I also taught right next door in another room without windows, which Emily was also a student in. So definitely, I mean, windows are just so important. The natural light, like you said, the feeling of wanting to be here and feeling comfortable and like your well-being is being taken into account. In my room that I have now, there's bees all of the time as the warm weather gets, it comes every year. And so, I mean, just having functional spaces, again, that reflect like the well-being and importance of what we're doing here are just so important.
And then what do you see as the impact of this project on our NAHS community?
I think it will bring our learning into the new century. We're struggling with branching out and building new technological programs because of our school. We've got no area for collaboration. We've got no areas for breakout rooms. I'm in a corner of a school, far away from physics and engineering, and I would love to collaborate with them. There's no space to do that. There's no opportunities to do that.
And then what do you view as both some of the benefits of this project as well as maybe some of the drawbacks?
Obviously, the drawback is the cost. I'm not a member of this community, but I did grow up here, so I understand that is tough for some people. But the benefits, this is going to be a town that people are going to want to raise their kids in. I would have loved to send my kids to North Attleboro if it had an amazing school and amazing programs. We're starting to get there, but we're hindered in our space and in this kind of antiquated building. So yes, it's costly, but I think the benefits to our children, we owe it to the kids of this town to invest in them and to allow them to have the brightest future possible. There's a lot of competition in the job market to go to college, and we want to set our kids up for success here.
And then why do you feel that building a new school is such an important undertaking?
Education is so valuable. Just sending our kids to the same old school, there's rooms without windows, there's rooms that are freezing, there's rooms that are hot. These kids, we're sending them into this world with AI and technology, and we're unable to have many technological labs. We have one lab. We're unable to do a lot of collaboration, and I think it's really important that we have an educational plan for this new school. I don't just want a new building. I want a new building that allows us to advance education. I don't want to keep doing the same thing we've always done. I want to get an environment where students are more independent. They can work on their own, break out into other areas of the school. So I think that's really important.
And then what makes this project important to you specifically as a staff member at NAHS?
Personally, as a staff member, I recently went on a visit to Attleboro High School, and I walked in, and the energy of that school to go to such an incredible building each day, the kids were just so excited to be there. Personally, I would love to have a temperature-controlled room. I would love to have light. I mean, I'm lucky to have windows in my classroom, but I didn't for many years. Most teachers don't, and it changes your environment. It changes your attitude. It changes the kids' attitude when they come into this wonderful school, this welcoming school, and it makes for a more positive environment for kids.
And then just my final question, if there is a new high school, what's one feature you personally would like to see added?
Ooh, that's a great question. Honestly, I said it before, the collaboration spaces. My children go to a new school, and I see the way they're able to work collaboratively between classrooms. It's not just everybody staring at a board, and I'm excited for that. I've tried to do that a little bit in my room, but you're very limited within four walls. I'm also really excited about cafeteria options, giving kids more space and more open areas for independent learning, and it just a little bit more independence on the kids.
All right, thank you so much. And then just my last question, as if the project is able to go forward, what does kind of the completion of that look like?
Yeah, so I think the intended date for completion, the building itself will be 2 years, so it would open up to students and staff to be lived in for the 2028 school year, the beginning of the 2028 school year. And then over the course of that next year, the the old school, would be demolished, and fields would be put in its place. The rest of the grounds, parking lots, other fields, lighting, hardscaping, landscaping, all that stuff would be completed over the course of the next year. And so the total project should be pretty much done by the beginning of the 29-30 school year.
Now we're here with Kyle Augustus, who is a senior at NAHS, and we're going to get some student feelings about the new high school project. So my first question for you is, how do you feel about the idea of a new high school?
Personally, I feel pretty great, especially about all the benefits that are foreseen and are talked about the big new high school. I mean, it kind of really beats the cracks in the floor and the falling materials on the wall. And about AC, personally, all my classes are either too cold or too hot, and the temperatures will be really big. So overall, really great, really great.
And what do you see as the impact of this project on both our NAHS community and the larger North Attleboro community?
I think it's grand, especially for the future generation. I feel what we're doing here is really great. All the students here are excelling, and I believe they will have bright futures. But if we can get the resources to kind of improve them and just make it all better, 10 times better, I think it would be all great,
And what does it feel like, because since you're a graduating senior, you got stuck with this old building. So how does it make you feel knowing that you're never going to get to kind of reap the benefits of this new building that is talked so much about?
Well, kind of what I was saying in the beginning, it's all about the future generation, right? I've been a part of a lot of the community forums, the Vision Project, and then working with the MSBA committee, kind of learning about okay, what is going to be implemented in this new building, and then learning about okay, well, from the students' perspective, what is important to incorporate in this new building. And so, I mean, even though I don't get to see this new building, I know that I don't know if I were to ever come back or to this town, but if I were to raise a family here, I know that my kids would be good, and then I know my siblings will be able to benefit off of this. And then it's just it's really about, it's a cause and effect. It's a domino. And I would love to be okay, looking back 30 years or something like that from now, being oh yeah, I went to that high school. That high school is so great, so amazing. Being able to be yeah, I went there, and then I being able to say yeah, I helped in the process of building this grand new future for the future generation.